is Christina Barton. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barn. Today we're going to be talking about Democrats still being frustrated with the border, getting more frustrated to the point where I guess the Biden administration is taking a little turn here and starting to construct some wall, which some Democrats are mad about. But obviously there's a problem. Some citizens of Chicago have spoken out, especially as they are prioritizing migrants coming in over their own citizens. So people are pushing back. They're very upset. And this continues to be a trend. Also, by the way, someone in my comments, I guess the other day, mentioned that they're kind of sick of hearing about the border. But I'm like, I don't feel like people have been I guess depending where you're listening, but I don't feel like people are talking enough about the issue considering how bad it is. It's a really big problem. But also there's some interesting polling that's come out. Democrats are, on most issues, people are trusting Republicans with like the economy and other things like that. Yet still it's a competitive race between Donald Trump and like Joe Biden. And which speaks to, I guess people overall disliking the both of them, but we have a good shot at taking some leads and taking some big wins if we don't basically spoil that. Also want to talk about the savage moment from Candace Owens, and also the oddness of Nancy Mace, who's making the rounds on TV and other places, and her reasoning for ousting McCarthy still doesn't make any sense, and she just looks super opportunistic, and she's not making herself look any better. So before we jump in everything, I want to alert everyone that this is, you guys are watching it live. Maybe, perhaps you might be watching on the playback, but this isn't a live recording. So thank you for being in the chat and being a part of the conversation. I obviously will not be responding to your super chats and other things like that, but I thank you guys for watching and I appreciate you. You can also, donate obviously via give super chat or super thanks. You guys can also, if you're watching on Facebook, you guys can send stars. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation. Consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate, because it costs to stream, costs to run my website, all that stuff. So you can support in that way. I very much do appreciate it. Check out different merchandise that we have available at blacktnews.com. We got different t-shirts, we got different mugs, we got the "You Are Not That Special" mug. We also got those in t-shirts as well, so you can trigger someone close in your life, or I don't know, maybe you got weird humor like I do, but black tea mug and all kinds of different stuff you guys can check out. Also, I have different books you guys can check out. Find me on Amazon, like my book, of course, God Is Blatantly Against Abortion. It covers theology, covers rights, it covers science, and it's well versed on the topic, not just from a religious perspective, but even if you're not religious, why some of those morals and values that we get from like the Bible and stuff still translates well and are necessary, I would say. So go ahead and check out all that stuff on Amazon. It's also on Barnes & Noble. You can get paperback or you guys can get it in Kindle, but I have 17 books altogether and you guys can go ahead and check them out. And I hope that you do. Also, the show, I'm going to try to keep it a bit short today because I have an event I'm trying to get to today. So that's why I'm not live. So, wish me well on the road. Let's start with Candace Owens. She did an event, and a lot of times you'll have people who will push back at events and say things like, "Oh, your speech is violence," and other things like that. And I've seen some of her like Daily Wire, fellow hosts respond to different questions like that. Like, I've seen Ben say, like, did anything I say, what did it seem like hateful? Like, try to break it down, make them really think about it, and like, where'd you hear all this stuff about me that you have this opinion, and where this bias is seeping in, and really challenge them to think a bit. But Candace Owens is far too pregnant, I guess, to care. She just was not having it. So I just wanted to show this moment that's going pretty viral.
Trans students on this campus who actively feel victimized by your presence here today. Additionally, you just pointed out that this man detransitioned, but earlier in your speech...
Guys, I want to hear her. Go ahead. What do I have to say? Just the question, please. No speech. What is the question?
What do you have to say to the trans students on this campus who feel actively victimized by your presence here?
Life's tough. Get a helmet, man. I'm too pregnant for this. Next question.
It's kind of amazing. Just, and I don't know if that some of that is just pregnant mom energy. I'm tired, my feet hurt, they're swollen, spine is breaking under the weight of this huge child I'm carrying. I don't know how much that is playing into it, or just being kind of done, with people coming in and slandering your character over feelings that are just hysterical. Her being there saying true things are not a threat to your life. They are not invalidating your existence. Sometimes people are like, "Oh, you're saying I don't exist." I'm like, I'm literally having a conversation with you. I'm not crazy. So why would I be talking to someone I don't think doesn't exist? Use clear, concise, true language when addressing me, please. And I feel that, sometimes you get kind of frustrated having the same kind of questions, having the same kind of conversations over and over and over again. I feel that way, sometimes talking about like pro-life issues and stuff, and sometimes I'll write really, really, really long posts on YouTube and other places. And the reason why the posts are so long is because I can predict, if I don't say this particular thing, then someone will say this in the comments. So I'm just trying to eliminate having to go back and forth with these other things that I can predict that these people are going to counter with. So I just want to and by the way, if you say this, and so the post will get really long. Kudos to everybody who takes the time to read all those. And if you say something like, "It's too long, I'm not reading all that," you could have just kept that in your mind. But if you want to voice things like that, I don't know, I might block you. So, you could have just kept scrolling by if it was too much trouble for you. So anyway, I feel that she's not victimizing people by coming there and giving a speech, unless she was like trying to, get a frenzy together to go, like, I don't know, hunt people or something like that, which isn't the case when these people go confront Candace or Matt or Walsh or Michael Knowles or Ben Shapiro. So amusing moment from Candace Owens, just not taking any of the crap, not in the mood. So thumbs up to her. Before I get to the immigration issue, I want to mention Nancy Mace. She's been making the rounds, and people have been accusing her, have noted that in January, and we talked a little bit about it yesterday, she had a lot of things to say about Matt Gaetz and his war with McCarthy, and how he didn't want to vote for him. McCarthy had to go through all these different votes, and Matt was one of the ones who's really holding it up. And she thought he was a fraud who was holding things up, risking the Democrats having their speaker in charge, and was accusing him of not really being conservative and being a fraud because he's just raising money, etc. So now she's in this position where she has voted to oust McCarthy. And who knows if she really wanted him out, or she just, once it was clear he was going to go out, that she jumped on board. I don't know how this all went down in her head, but she has been fundraising like crazy, and she's blaming it on McCarthy, not advancing her bills enough. And she's like, Roe v. Wade's overturned, we want more stuff on women's issues. I'm like, I don't know if your birth control bill was worth ousting McCarthy, ma'am. I just there's so many other things that I can care about as a woman beyond my vajayjay and who comes out of it. And if someone comes out of it, there's just so many What about the women who already have kids who have coming out of their JJ and don't need a bill with help with that, I suppose. And and they're concerned about gas prices and illegal immigration and other sorts of things like that. So Nancy Mace, all issues are women's issues, I guess, is a point I'm trying to make. I mean, there are some that particularly only may impact will mostly impact women, but I don't understand her. So anyway, here she is on CNN and being confronted like you talked about Matt Gaetz, yet here you are fundraising.
Caitlin, the establishment is coming after me. I've had a lot of threats about my fundraising. I'm asking people to go to my website at nancymace.org to help me to show their support, because there are folks that are coming after me tonight.
I'm glad you brought that up, because back in January, when there were the marathon votes for Kevin McCarthy to get this job, he was fighting to take the gavel. This is something that you said.
Mm-hmm. Matt Gaetz is a fraud. Every time he voted against Kevin McCarthy last week, he sent out a fundraising email. What you saw last week was a constitutional process diminished by those kinds of political actions.
Of course, now here we are in October. You and Congressman Gaetz are in agreement on at least ousting McCarthy. You were on a podcast together today. You yourself have been fundraising off that vote. How do you explain that to now?
Well, I have not been fundraising off of this every step of the way. I made my decision last night. I made the decision to fundraise over the last 24 hours because of the threats that I have received over fundraising and money drying up, which is why I need help. The establishment is coming after me. I've gotten a lot of threats from different groups and different members that they will withhold fundraising no matter what. And I do need help from the people. And that was a decision that I made late last night because of everything that was going on. And it is a genuine ask. And if people want to support the effort, they can go to nancymace.org.
Well, that podcast was one that is done by Steve Bannon. Of course, you once voted to hold him in contempt of Congress, which he brought up today. Mm-hmm. Is he now advising you?
No, nobody. I mean, I have consultants, but he is not one of them. I often will make my decisions on my own volition. I don't take pressure from the outside world or outside groups generally. I'm not beholden to anyone anywhere, not in D.C. I'm only beholden to the people. And I make decisions on legislation, on votes, generally on my own.
But overall, when you look at what you were saying in January, if someone looks at what you said then, what you say now, mm-hmm. and if a critic says that you're being hypocritical of that, how do you respond to them?
I'm taking it from all sides right now. And because of the threats that I've been receiving over the last couple of weeks, it finally reached a point last night.
So she also had tweeted something that was kind of cringe. So I'm going to go ahead and share it with you guys so you can see this. And she's I guess taking a dark Brandon sort of approach here. So DC insiders want to kick me off committees and out of the GOP conference for standing up for you. Were you standing up for? I mean, she's not my congressperson. We're not from the same state. But if I was her constituent, I'd be annoyed. But it's she said, "I say bring it. I'm not afraid of the establishment. I owe DC nothing, and I'll stand with the real Americans every single time. Will you stand with me?" And yeah, you're not that guy. You're not that guy. Sorry, you're not that guy. It's amazing how many times people will throw around the word establishment and like, what does that mean to you, hon? What does that word mean to you? I mean, like the GOP, just like old guard? Are you talking about conservatives, which you don't appear to be? You have a not great Liberty score, ma'am. I don't get this move. Maybe she wants to be the speaker herself. McCarthy, did help her with her race and stuff, and I'm sure he appreciates the knife in the back, but people are responding to you joining with the Democrats and ousting the speaker. So excuse them for being upset and not wanting to support you when you do things that don't help the party or the GOP conference, in the long run. So, Nancy, you're not that guy. You're not that guy, or you're not that girl. Here's a clip of her on Bannon that was referenced on CNN.
New York Times reporter you have sitting in the corner in the war room right now. When they write about me, they say things like
kaboom.
They say things like hardliner, the hardliners.
Ultra mega.
Oh
ultra
yeah,
mega.
yeah. The
far
right.
Far right.
And I'm thinking, okay, look at let's talk about this for a moment. Okay, Nancy is not a hard right. Intransigent lawmaker, but our Venn diagram overlaps
Didn't you
around
vote
spending.
to send me to federal prison for
I like
4
the
months?
Constitution. I'm a constitutionalist.
Okay.
Getting hot in here.
My appellate lawyer would disagree about that, but that's not a field.
But
didn't you vote to send me to prison? And she's like, I'm a constitutionalist. He's like, not according to my lawyers. So that was a good burn. And to go ahead and go on a show is very interesting. Just running anywhere. I guess you guys can get a microphone. Some people have said to Nancy Mace, like, why don't you just go ahead and go on like The View already? So, I don't get her. But I wasn't fond of her anyway. So it's not like I'm disappointed. It's not like I'm disappointed by her actions. So immigration, and like I mentioned, somebody, some people are like, oh, I'm sick of hearing about immigration and the problem with the border. And I don't think people have talked enough about it. The numbers are crazy. I mean, maybe I don't watch Fox religiously, or so maybe Fox is talking about it nonstop, but there's people who haven't expressed, how much this is going to change our country, how much a risk that potentially puts our country, how much of a burden it is on our country, and what's going to happen further down the line. Especially like in the Obama era, you had a lot of people debating about what was going to happen with the Dreamers and amnesty and all that other stuff like that. And people still wonder, still debated, etc. But how do you get all these Dreamers who are like, I've been here, it's the only home I know. And you're just continuously creating more problems by not pumping the brakes on this. There was a really impassioned speech that happened. I can't remember which congresswoman talked about it, but she went to the border to talk to people, and she talked about people who came across, by coyotes and cartels or whatever, and how women were sexually assaulted, children were sexually assaulted, which is something, they talked about in the Trump administration. And so I'm assuming people know. I don't know how many people, do know, but it's been talked about. You ought to know what sort of things are happening to people as they're trying to get here to the US on these dangerous trips. But people didn't know that coyotes weren't, when Trump mentioned coyotes on the debate stage, that he wasn't talking about Wile E. Coyote. So who knows what the heck people are actually thinking. But she mentioned how they pay to come over here, but they haven't paid everything, so they're still indebted to these cartels. So what happens when you have a ton of people in the US who are being, brought over here by cartels, and that they still owe the cartels? And it's impacting more than just what's going on in Texas and in states that touch the border. Of course, you've had people who sent, like in Texas, Governor Abbott has sent people to New York, and people in have had enough. They've been protesting. They've been so upset. There's a Chicago youth football program that was kicked out of their neighborhood field house, so it can shelter migrants. And so the residents and the players showed up to protest. And people are just really sick of it. So here's a clip for that. So, if only they didn't vote for like Democrats, in uniform, man, just uniformly, just Democrat, pull that lever nonstop. Particularly Black women are very like militant and constantly voting Democrat. Like you had a higher uptick of Black men, but it still wasn't enough, wasn't a lot, especially not as much as people were hoping for. With a lot, but Trump pitched pretty hard, with especially with things like the Platinum Plan, trying to, I don't know if you want to say buy that vote or whatever, but but he did things to earn that vote, and people just weren't biting. So I was a Bible study the other night. We were talking about the election. Well, people asked me what I thought about the election, and this was after Bible study, by the way. We didn't interrupt service to have a political discussion, but they asked me what I thought, and who's gonna win and primaries, etc. Blah blah blah, and start talking about like, well, I hear there's a lot of Black people who are are upset about this stuff, and I'm like, I kind of don't trust in the end that people will still make the right decision. And my sister's like, yeah, she says she don't trust Black folks. I guess how they gonna vote. And because you can hear about how upset they are, but I'm like, I don't know. At the end of the day, we got to try, right? We just got to try. We got to outreach. We got to convince people, or we got to make the case. We got to show up. You got to do those things, and not necessarily by pandering, I guess, because they just promote good policies, like let people know, like, hey, this immigration issue, if this wouldn't be happening if Trump was in office. Right. Or so these Democrats in charge do not want to secure the border. And so now you are sharing in some of the pain. And these are a consequence of your of the voting. Yeah, the voting consequences of your actions. But we can rectify the situation. It's not too late. But it could be too late eventually. So now we have to make a better decision. So you have to make that case. It is a very hard thing to do for people to admit that they made a mistake and that they were wrong. So we'll see what happens. You got to try, and I hate to be pessimistic about this, but maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised. Maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised about all this. But I got some other footage from like residents of Chicago just being furious about the state of migrants coming into their communities.
You cannot keep bringing immigrants in. The city does not have the money.
You cannot track them. You ain't tracking them good at the police station. You don't know their name, but you want to spread them all over the city. It is unsanitary, it's unsafe, and it's just not right.
And here's some more.
Hours before the meeting, neighbors held a protest outside, blasting the plan.
We ain't having that, no. You want to tell us what to do in our park? You cannot do that. We pay our money.
Some calling for more transparency from the 5th floor.
And what I want to say is to Mayor Brandon Johnson, we are disappointed in you. This is the community that supported you. How dare you?
We've reached out to Mayor Brandon Johnson's office for his response to the community's reaction, but have not yet heard back.
So, yeah, people are upset. But you got to go out there and you got to make the case as well, and then we'll see what happens. But you get what you pay for, as Kamala Harris has said. And a lot of people are feeling the hurt, and perhaps we as a whole, as a nation, maybe deserve things that we're going through. But I certainly didn't vote. I didn't vote for that man. So please come get on my level. Let's make better decisions. But it's funny though, because Democrats recognize that, or Americans, I'll say as a whole, recognize that Biden is bad. There's a poll that came out that still had Biden 51-49 as far as likely voters. Is a Marquette poll. Who would you handle the following issues better? The economy. Trump 52% to 28%. That's plus 24. Border security. Trump 52% to 28% plus 24. Inflation, Trump 50% to 27%. So that's plus 23. Creating jobs, Trump 49% to 30%, which is plus 19, which I saw some Democrats mad about this poll. They're like, oh my gosh, these people are so dumb. How can they say that? Because because we had a negative with Trump and we had, and Biden created all these jobs. Like, ma'am and sirs, good and well that the pandemic happened and we shut down our economy, and that messes with the numbers a lot. And that's why Trump is going out with a negative and why Biden is so high when you basically just opened up the doors and a lot of people go back to work and stuff. So just stop. And then a lot of people lost their jobs and stuff. So let's not pretend like the economy wasn't slapping before the COVID happened, because they're Democrats literally panicking about, they're just waiting like, there's got to be a recession soon. There's got to be a recession soon. It's always falls. It's not falling. It's not falling. Bill Maher, he's saying a lot of things that people are agreeing with and people like and etc. And, I can agree with them from time to time, but I do recall that he wanted the economy to crash or said something to that effect because he didn't want Trump to be president again. And that's obviously something that, has more impact on everyone else who's not filthy rich like he is. And a lot of people were hurting, but I guess he got what he wanted because Trump's not in office and everyone is hurting. Foreign relations, Trump 43% to 38% plus 5. Now, when you get to Medicare and Social Security, you get to Biden is 39% plus 2. Maybe that's not Social Security, but it is Medicaid. Medicare. Trump is 37%, and abortion policy, Biden, of course, leads plus 9 at 43%, 34%. And that's one L that I hope Trump is happy to take, as far as if people want access to it. But it's a friend of mine was on or associate rather was on a broadcast during the election time, and he told these women, he's like, if abortion is like your number one issue, that's a pretty privileged position to be in when there's so many other things going on, particularly the economy and inflation and job creation, other stuff like that. Foreign relations is pretty important as the president. You're the commander in chief, and so the fact that Trump is like above Biden and all this stuff is really telling. But at the end of the day, I get a lot of independents still hate his guts, and Biden is still, even with his unfavorables in that poll, higher than Trump. They're still pretty competitive. When you start throwing in other, candidates who are going to be in third party places, things probably, they're going to get vastly different very quickly, and things are going to be vastly different the quicker you get to an actual general election. But it's amazing that so many people can admit that we're on the wrong track with Biden, that the Democrats don't have the confidence of the American people to be able to fix the economy, the border, and other things like that. And it just shows that Republicans can take an epic win if it's a focus on Biden, if it's a focus on Democrats, if it's a focus on how things how badly they've gotten while under their reign. And if it's a referendum on Biden, rather being a referendum on Trump. And but we will see, as next year, so much of our news is going to be about Trump's trial. And they're both banking on each other being so bad that they'll skate through. It's not a great position to be in. And then the old man talking about, they're both old men, but Biden, someone could always push him aside and get someone else in. But in the meantime, the Biden administration must know that they are really screwed on the border issue, because they are actually stripping away some different restrictions so they can build some more fencing and walls and stuff in Texas. So this is from NBC. In a striking acknowledgement of the need to address the migrant influx of the southern border, the Biden administration announced it waived 26 federal laws to permit more border wall construction in southern Texas, a move that builds one on one of the most controversial cornerstones of the Trump administration. The Department of Homeland Security posted the announcement overnight in the Federal Registry, which said the administration was waiving federal laws such as the Clean Air Act, the Safe Drinking Water Act, and the Endangered Species Act for the wall construction in Star City County, Texas, using federal funds appropriated in 2019, so still like within the Trump administration. There is presently an acute and immediate need to construct physical barriers and roads in the vicinity of the border of the United States in order to prevent unlawful entries into the United States in the project areas. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas said in the notice. In a statement, the spokesperson for U.S. Customs and Border Protection noted that Mayorkas issued waiver under the federal immigration law for barrier project that was quietly announced in June, which will be constructed on about 17 miles in Starr County. Congress appropriated the fiscal year 2019 funds for the construction of the border barrier in the Rio Grande Valley, and DHS is required to use those funds for their appropriated purpose, the CBP spokesperson said, adding that the project was consistent with the President Joe Biden's proclamation after taking office that ended the use of military funds for border wall construction and using money provided by Congress instead. CBP remains committed to protecting the nation's cultural and natural resources and will implement sound environmental practices as part of the project covered by this waiver, the spokesperson said. So, it's a funny turn of events, but people are mad, and not just people on the right, people on their side are very concerned with the state of affairs. So Beto O'Rourke was upset about it and voiced some opinions, which he's not alone. Beto, of course, ran for Senate, and he also ran for governor, and he also ran for president, like back to back to back. Failed, of course. Walls don't work. President Biden promised he wouldn't build them, and now even harder for voters to distinguish between him and Trump on border/immigration. Wasted opportunity to use executive power to actually fix our asylum system instead of impotent political posturing. Some strong words from an opportunist. I assume he won't. I don't know. You can never assume he won't run again for something, especially something big. If he's trashing the president here. Beto raised a lot of money. Every time he runs, people just throw their money at him. So I wouldn't say he uses it wisely, because I sure did see a lot of Beto ads. I'm like, I can't vote for this guy, and I wouldn't vote for this guy. I'm like, where is it targeting? Because I am not the one you're looking for. Certainly not. So they know they've made some errors. Is it enough at this point to start doing smart things and trying to fix the border and all these people coming in? Is it a little too late to make a difference in the eyes of their constituents and the people are upset? Maybe they could do a little bit and just point to a little bit and say, look, we did something. But I don't know, the problem's pretty bad. And not just you don't know who's coming in, you don't know what they're carrying when they come over. I mean, there was reports of people having tuberculosis, but there's also people who are literally on the terrorist watch list coming in.
Another story that's happening on the southern border, and this is a stunning thing. You have to pay attention to it. All right. And you're going to see an obvious trend here. These are the suspected terrorists arrested at the southern border. Back in 2019, you're at goose egg. You're at 0. You moved to 3 in 2020. It's 15 in 2021, 98 last year, and so far this year to date, 151. The pattern's obvious down there on the southern border.
Yeah, so not great, obviously. Not great at all. We're in a bit of a mess, guys. We're in a bit of a mess with everything. So is this fixable? Sure, it's fixable, but how much time do we have to avert disaster? this election's really important, upcoming election in 2024. And people always say that. People say this is the most important election that we've ever had, etc. But there is a lot on the line. There's a lot on the line with the Supreme Court. We have some great conservative justices who are I wish, we're not, I wish nothing bad would happen to Clarence Thomas and Alito, but they're elderly, and Scalise dying when I mean, not Scalise, gosh, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, hold on. Scalia dying was a shock. I'm like, I know it sounds similar. In 2016, and it really changed the trajectory of the election. And I don't want Biden to replace Clarence Thomas. I really don't. It would seem like there's no justice in this world if something like that happened. Pray for his well-being, their well-being and stuff. But you don't know what could happen with the courts. You don't know what could happen. The wrong person come over, too many of the wrong people coming over and inflicting some kind of harm. I talked about how there's gangs, international gangs from Colombia and other places that are hitting houses where I live, and I live in Michigan, in the county and stuff where I am at. So it's impacting people beyond the border at Texas. So I hope people wake up, and I hope it doesn't get too bad. Think about all these people who are indebted to the coyotes and folks who brought them over. What might they still owe, and how these people will be absolutely brutalized, and how brutalized they are coming on the way up here. It's funny, when I was a kid, when we had the wars in Afghanistan and other places, people would complain about nation building and how America couldn't solve all the world's problems and stuff. But it's funny how many of those same people, are okay with nation building here. People just coming in and breaking our laws, and maybe not adapting to our culture. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But you don't start off by breaking the laws, and not really being a true asylum seeker, and not coming through the port of entry, legal port of entry and stuff. And again, we got some not good people coming over. And I feel for people who want to come and build a better life. We are very blessed to live in America. If you're watching from America, I am. You may not be. Very blessed to be here. And if you're lucky enough to be able to immigrate over here legally, you're very blessed to be here. I mean, I've gone to other countries, and people have been trying to get here, and my heart goes out to folks who have their eyes and hearts set on the US of A. I think it's the greatest country in the world. But you can't come here and drain on the systems and lie about why you're coming, and break the laws and think you're getting off to a good foot there. Do things appropriately. We at least need to know who's coming in the country. We at least need to know that, and stop the pouring of all the drugs coming in, and cut off the legs of the cartel. We don't want them getting a bigger foothold in the nation and stuff. So this is an important election for a lot of reasons. Trump really, really was a powerful voice in the Republican Party because of the immigration issue, and him not, going as strong as he promised is one of the reasons why Ann Coulter can't stand him now. I'm sure there's lots of other reasons. But who's going to pick up that mantle? Some other people's, DeSantis and other people are talking about picking up that mantle. We'll see. But we know that Joe Biden and the Democrats are not the way. Anyway, that is where I'm going to table it all for you guys today. I said it would be a little short show, but I hope you guys still enjoyed it. You guys can go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, different videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate. Cost stream, cost from my website, all that stuff. So if you guys can support in that way, I very much do appreciate you. Check out well, I already said you can check out different articles. There's one that I did drop today about the Trump campaign and saying that they should end debates, which just let the process happen, guys. And which we talked a little bit about that on the show, but there's an article available for you guys to check out. Check out different merch that we have on the website, like the I'm Not the Victim You're Looking For shirt. I also have different books you guys can check out. I got my faith book, Slay Your Fear, How to Overcome a Spirit of Fear, so you guys can check that out, and all different kinds of stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you live.